On this episode of Old School Monster Life, we strain the limits of fabrication again. Okay, I know I haven't been doing a whole lot of stuff with the monster truck, but with the year being the way it is, I've had to take jobs that I wouldn't normally take just so I can keep the wheels rolling until, we can start doing shows again. So along those lines, a guy came by and wanted me to look at his Toyota truck for doing body work. And when I started looking at his truck for body work, I noticed that his frame was not just rusty, but rotten. I mean, bad. So I told him that, he has bigger issues and he needs to park his truck until we can fix it. So we finally brought the truck by and pulled the bed off and started looking at the damage. And I still have no idea how this truck didn't fold in half driving over here. I've never seen a frame quite this bad. Look at this. So you can see where this patch was welded on before, and there's not a whole lot there. This is a 2-inch round cross member. You can see that it was just rotted to nothing, and it actually fell completely off. The problem with that is the gas tank should mount right about here, and that cross member is what the gas tank was mounted to. So the gas tank actually fell out on the way here. But down here is rotted. Up here is rotted. Here is rotted. Here is rotted. This cross member in the back is gone. There is rotted. I showed you where the patch was. Down here is rotted. You can even see that the weld for the spring perch isn't attached anymore. It's cracked because there's no metal behind that weld. There is nothing to fix. There is nothing left to fix on this frame. It's rotted completely away from the cab back. But the cab, the bed, the front frame section are amazingly solid. I mean, look at this. Now, this is an 85 Toyota. Look at this cab. It's amazing. There's no Toyota cabs left that are this solid. Rockers, all original. None of that's ever been changed before. The bottoms of the doors, now granted he replaced the doors, but dang, that's really nice. Look at the floors in this thing. All original. Look at the seat. The seat's even original. This thing is definitely worth fixing up. So what we're going to do is build an entire new rear frame stub. I stripped everything down off of the frame to where I could, get to it and see really what's bad. And I pulled patterns off of it yesterday, and I'm starting to cut out the pieces. And we're going to build new frame rails and new cross members, and then we're going to use the existing bed mounts and spring perches because they're still in decent shape, and I'm going to weld all that stuff to the new frame stub, and then we'll tie it into the existing frame. But that's what we have to do. This is way more involved than I wanted it to be, but I talked with the owner yesterday, and he's good with it, so here we go. Yeah, this is the damage that the owner wanted me to look at when I found the frame rot. That's it. It's just a couple of dents. You know, a blemish there. Look at the inside of this Toyota bed from 1985. Original paint. Not a single dent, hardly a scratch. It's never had anything in it. And it is 100% rust free. It's unreal. So that's why we're fixing the truck. Okay, when doing a job like this, the first thing is first. You go around and you take every measurement you can possibly think of. Any reference point, any hole, shock mount, everything. It all has to have a measurement and a number so we know how to put it back. And it also helps if you draw a picture. So this is what I do. So there is my diagram, or blueprint if you will. Here's the cab, there's the rear bumper, and every measurement and reference point in between. And then on this page, you know, I go back and get a side view of it for the important stuff, like where to put the axle. That way nothing gets lost, nothing gets moved around. I also put everything on jack stands so it's almost exactly where it was before when I go to cut frame rails out and weld my new ones in. Okay, we're making progress on the frame. Now, how we go about getting perfect frame rails because they're such an odd shape? Well, first we make a cardboard template. So after we clean all of the bed mounts and everything off of the side rail, we have a relatively flat surface. We can make a cardboard template. Now from that template, we make a blank. And the reason we make a blank is because that cardboard has a bunch of waves in it, and it's not perfect. As you can see, it's got, you know, where the grab handle on the box was that I used, and you know, it came down onto the flap of the box. So it's not a great template, but it's close enough. So from there we make a metal blank, and that's this thing. And what we do with the metal blank is we take the flap wheel and we smooth out all of the imperfections in it, and we get a nice gentle curve. There's no kinks in it, there's no nothing, and it's just the correct shape of the frame rail. And then from that we build the frame rail, and that's this. So this is what the finished frame rail looks like, and it's got the notch for the bumper in the back, which is the same as that notch. But that frame rail is all 1/8 inch. The factory frame rail, the outer rail was 14 gauge, the inner rail looks like 18 gauge. It's really thin. So we're going to add a few pounds to the truck with this frame rail. Now what I got to do now is build the other frame rail, and then I can start working on the cross members. But this is how it is going to be on the truck. Okay, we got the frame rails done. There's one, and there's two. Now I just clamped this up here so I could mark some holes, but you can see that the contour is pretty darn close. Now my new new frame rail is slightly larger, and that was by design, because I'm going to cut off the factory frame rail as far back as I can, and it will sleeve inside the new frame rail, and then I will plug weld it at various places along with welding the outside, so it will stay as strong as it can possibly stay. It was a long day, but we got one frame rail in. So both frame rails are built. One frame rail is welded in with all the mounts, and everything's in the right spot. That is much better. No rust. And all the shock mounts and everything else is in there. Still got to drill some holes, but as soon as I weld the other frame rail in, I can start building cross members. And no fish plate because the old frame rail is sleeved inside of that one by about a foot. So that's stronger than a fish plate and a butt joint. That's how I roll when I cut a truck in half. Man, it's taken a while, but we're getting there. We have the other frame rail in place and it's clamped. And now, before I weld everything for the last time, or for the first time even, I have everything ratchet strapped together and come along, and I've checked square a million times, and I've checked true, and I've checked component placement. So once everything is exactly where it has to be, then I can weld it together. So that's where we are now. I figured you guys might want to see this. So here is the new frame section in place, and we have a come along to keep it square, the new rear cross member, the ratchet strap back there to keep the frame rails pinched against the cross member, the ratchet straps on either spring to keep the spring load where it needs to be until I weld the perches in. And then I still have this round tube cross member to go in here so I can mount the gas tank. So that's next on the list, and I have to drill the hole so I can slide that cross member in. And once that's in place, then we can weld this bear together, and he'll have a brand new frame section in the back. The end of another long day. Everything is fitted together, built. All I got to do now is weld it all together and reassemble it. Whew, this was a bit of a job. But there it is. One completely new frame stub in the back. Quite pleased with it. That was a lot of work. Alright, it is Monday morning. I worked all weekend on the Toyota behind me to get the frame straightened out. And today is the final push to get this thing done and gone so I can get the next project in. It's all welded back together. I took all the straps off, I took all the clamps off, and it held its shape. It stayed square, stayed level. I like it. There is the new frame section welded in place. Level, square, true, no rust, not a spot of rust anywhere on a Toyota frame. Who else can say that? Or at least a rear section anyway. But yep, now to put all the bed mounts and spring hangers and stuff down the passenger side rail, and then we can put the gas tank back in it. It is really close now. Alright, it's right about lunchtime now. All of the mounting tabs and brackets and everything are bolted or welded back onto the frame. I have all the gussets on the frame joining it to the original frame. So aside from some plug welds, this frame is done and attached and set. Now I just got to go back and drill and tap some holes and mount some of the other things and then put the gas tank back in it. We can throw the bed back on. We should be done today. Here's how we're looking. Pretty proud of that. That was a lot of work. So everything's back where it belongs. I got gussets welded in. I didn't clean this one up yet, but I have gussets welded in to join it to the frame and the front cross member. And we are just about done. A lot of work. Been on this for 3 days, so we'll get her done. Okay, we're getting ready to wrap this up. I have most everything done, and I went to put the skid plate back underneath the gas tank, and for the life of me I couldn't figure out what was going on because it didn't fit. Man, that's like I'm missing a piece. And if you look, there's a gap, and that's as tight up as it can go. So I started looking around and remembered, oh yeah, there's that piece on the floor. That piece there. I bet you that'll make that fit. Alright, not without its drama, but we got her done. New frame section is in, all the mounting tabs. It's back down on the ground. It looks good. Voila, done. All the mounting tabs are there. Got the gas tank squared away. The hose mount for the rear brake line was rotted completely away, so I made a new one. The gas tank's not dragging on the ground from a bad cross member. Everything's in there and tight. He'll have to do the exhaust later. That's how it came. But we are ready to pull this thing outside and throw the bed back on it. Can't wait. Bed fits, bumper fits, it drives. Bye. So as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop some comments down below. Tell us what you think. And like always, we'll see you down the road.